Hey guys, this is going to be a comparison video, and I thought it needed a bit of an introduction. Uh, this is the jaktkit knv3. I won this in a giveaway from Arthur Brame, and I was very excited because I really was looking forward to getting this knife. And then I won it, which was great. And this is the Fallkniven F1. Now this is my second Fallkniven F1. The first one I gave away to a friend, and this one I got from a friend. But by the time I got this one, I already got to play with this one. And I realized they're not similar. Now a lot of people have said the knv3 is just a knockoff F1. And I have seen that written in forums. Oh, is that the knockoff F1? I said, no, it's not a knockoff F1. If you are to look at the handle, you can say, and I said, they are very similar. Except for this little guard that protrudes more on the knv3, they look about the same. Now, the material is different. You have better grip with this one. It's softer. Is that good? Yes and no, because I have hit the F1 on the handle with a baton a number of times, and there you go, you can see the damage. I'm sure I have hit the knv3 with the baton on the handle a few times, and you can see the damage. So a harder material for the handle I think is a better idea. However, this is thought out to be a hunting knife, and as such you have just great traction on it. This one also, I don't feel it lacks in traction, but it has a more firm grip to it. Doesn't give that much. That's why this one feels a bit better in hand. Although it's a bit thinner, but you have a smaller blade. And let's talk about the blade. As if I'm going to show you these two knives, blades, side by side, I don't think you're going to say it's the same knife. No. If you see the handles, yes. But if you see just the blades, I think you can say they are very different. First of all, the knv3 is stubbier, shorter, 3 inches long. The F1 is 4 inches long. Both have the same spine thickness. But they don't have the same geometry. Now, I have worked quite a bit on both. Right now, they both stand somewhere at about a 20-degree per side edge angle, convexed. I have my problems with the F1. The first one and the second one chipped. Microchips, but a lot of them. There was nothing I could do to stop the F1 from getting microchips. Now this is not a problem that I've heard a lot of people complain about. I'm thinking that not a lot of people pay a lot of attention to it. And that's why, because, well, if it happens once, it might be a fluke. If it happens twice, in my opinion, it's a rather big coincidence. Too big. Is it possible that it's a coincidence? Yes. Probable? Not really. I think they all get microchips. But that's just me. This one didn't get any microchips. Both are sharp, shaving sharp. The F1 has a few microchips in it, but that's not really gonna make a difference. The hardest thing will be to keep in mind that the knv3 is only 3 inches long. Now I have prepared a few logs here. They're not very thick because of the knv3. I tried to keep them at a manageable thickness. Now you can see, maybe here, this is really hard. The outside is rotten and moist, but the inside is bone dry. And just to demonstrate, you can remove this. Let me just stand up here. Until you get to the core, which You can see this is hard. This is a former Scandi ground Enzo Trapper in 01 tool steel. Now it's a heavily modified Enzo Trapper with a very shallow convex, a very thin edge, and about a 10-degree per side edge angle. And I just showed you that it does stop in this beech wood. This is the same, out of the same tree that broke my wildlife hatchet. So it's tough, safe to say. I do have a pair of gloves, because I did say this about the F1, and it's no different for the knv3. The handle is a bit thin if you're gonna make a lot of feather sticks. Then again, I don't really know exactly what I'm gonna do. I just know I want to make a fire, get some food, and since I do have the two knives with me, I thought you might enjoy a comparison, because a lot of people have been asking me, and because I view them as two different knives, I thought, well, you know, it's gonna be hard. That's what she said. So let's get to it. I decided not to use that stump that I usually baton on, because I thought it might be a surface that is too stable or maybe too unstable. I'm just gonna put the pieces of wood on this chip just so I don't hit the ground, and baton like this. I think it's what you would do if you wouldn't come to the same places over and over. So let's start with the knv3. Because of the size of the blade, I have to size the wood as well. There's a small crack here, so I'm gonna go from the other side. I don't want to use cracks that are already in the wood. Normally I would use them, but for testing, I don't think you need to. Now this does not take that much effort. The wood is hard, but it is rather thin. And I did not want to choose something thicker, because with a 3-inch blade you would have to use wooden wedges to be able to get through something thicker. What I'm doing, since the wood was a bit curved, I am pulling the knife and twisting it a bit. That's how I broke that Enzo Black Beaver. Alright, second one, let's go for the F1. About the same size. Now that I've removed that knot that was rotten, about the same size. course, this would be much easier if you would have a stable platform to baton on. All right. Let's go for the little one again. And here I'm taking the thicker one. I'm relying on the width. I'm relying on the thickness of the blade actually to split the wood, so I don't have to baton it on the handle. But I don't know if that's gonna go very well. We'll just have to see. All right, remove the rotten part mostly, and if I try to bite in the part that's not rotten, you can see can't really do that by just holding the wood in my hand. I would have to actually rest it on a stable surface, and then I could make some wood shavings. All right, let's go from this side. I think it could work. Might be just me or the wood. I thought that second piece with the Fallkniven was a bit more stubborn. Because I really don't have enough space here when I get a full piece of wood to hit. I just hit the tip, and maybe it was this core that really pulled the knv through very quickly. Get a good grip on my baton. You can see it's twisted, so it's not gonna like that. But it went through. Alright, I guess it's time for my payback, since like I said, this is the piece of wood that chipped my hatchet. Well, alright, just gonna go from this end. Yep. Guess I could use this small crack here just that went relatively fast because the wood was not the thickest. A lot of people say you don't need to baton wood to make a fire. I agree, but to those people I also like to say, have you ever made or compared stick fire from sticks you just gather from the forest floor against a split wood fire? A split wood fire would always burn nicer, faster, warmer, cleaner. Except for the size of the blade, they did about the same job. I felt, even though I didn't have a lot of room to baton on, the knv3 did a very good job. I think the second piece of wood that I split with the F1 was a bit more stubborn. But that's just it. You can't really control everything, especially if you're doing a test outside with pieces of wood, especially like these were being there for a year, 2, 3, and rotten on the outside. You will get all sorts of variables like this. I always thought that cross-grain batoning was a good way to test a blade. Puts a lot of pressure on it, a lot of shock, because you're not going to be able to hit the blade in a 90-degree angle. Most times you will hit it a bit off. And if it snaps at that point, I don't think it's the user's fault. I think there was a problem in heat treatment. I've had that happen to me with my K-bar large heavy Bowie. It shouldn't have happened. It just snapped off because I didn't hit it in a 90-degree angle. So, got this piece of wood here. This is something I picked up a while ago. Not the hardest piece of wood, but it's going to suffice for a small test. If you would like to do a field test, so to speak, and be able to rely on your results, it would have to be a very, very long field test where you basically baton through hundreds of pieces of wood to make sure that you happen to get the hard ones with this knife and the hard ones with that knife. You just remove the variables, so to say. Let's do this. I'm going to use this as a base for my fire. And this is something that I've seen people do a lot. I'm not talking about bushcrafters. I'm talking about people who just use their knives no matter what knives they are. They need to cut through something and they will use their knives like this. Batoning is not a new concept. Not at all. Batoning is something that people used for a long time. Of course, it's preferable to have an axe to go through a piece of wood. This is a knot right here. I'm going to go through it. But if a knife has a thickness of 4-5 millimeters, should handle it. Like I said, not the hardest of woods. Let's go with the small one. And prop this piece of wood so it doesn't hit me in the face. Hopefully. I'm going to go through the knot. A bit harder. All right, one more cut. There you go. This is going to be considerably drier than the other one. I'm just going to beaver my way through. I think chopping would have been the easier way to go through this piece of wood, but I've already started. Sorry about moving around so much. I didn't really think this one through. I am on a slope, so. Alright, let's split this. Since it does seem to be a rather stubborn piece of wood. This is the problem with a smaller blade. See that? The whole blade is inside the wood, and while the thickness of the blade is doing the job of splitting the wood, right here I'm on the ricasso, which is not sharpened, so I'm not really getting through it as easy. And this is also one reason why I prefer micarta handles, because I can just hit a micarta handle without thinking there will be consequences. Huh. Just do what I should have done in the beginning. It seems like my stump is not the best choice for a batoning surface when it comes to stubborn wood. This wood chip is not it either, but what if I just turn it around? Or no, you know what I could do? Now that I've reached a choking point with the 3-inch blade, I could go ahead and try the 4-inch blade. And I'm going to go from the same side. No, actually I'm going to go with the curvature on the outside. It's going to be easier. Or should I? I should. I should. Tough stuff. I'm also going with hitting the ricasso with this one, even if it's that much smaller. That's going to be an easy split. Now, I think I'm done with batoning. Let's see what else we can do. I thought I would just build up my fire. I'm gonna use this as a platform. It has been raining for the last days, and I don't think it's a bad idea to always put a few sticks underneath your fire. It helps with the airflow, and it does keep the moisture out, because this is very wet. All right. I really enjoy making split wood fires. Like I said, they burn very quickly, very hot, give you good embers, and very clean. The last things that are going to burn are these pieces of wood, and I'm just going to have to take care that I don't leave those on when I leave the woods. All right. I did manage to kind of split everything into smaller pieces. I've just seen somebody post a picture of a tall upside down log cabin fire. It was about 4 times or 5 times as tall as this one. And while it looked cool, before they lit it up, as soon as you light that one up and things are going to start to burn, it will just fall over. A good idea for that is to take some green sticks and pound them in the ground around your fire. The greener the better. That will help your fire not to fall over. All right. These are a bit. This is really wet. I might put that on later. Let's just go with the thin stuff. It's also a bit wet. And I think I can go this high without it falling over. I have a few more pieces of wood here, but I'm just going to put them on top after the fire starts burning. The reason why I like lanyard holes on knives is because I can put a string through it and use it as a pinky lanyard. And even with a 4-inch blade, you could chop. Now, like some people feel about batoning, I feel about chopping. Use a big knife to chop. But if you have a heavy knife, 4-inch blade, you can definitely chop with it. It's not going to do the job that a 10-inch blade will do, of course, but it'll do it. So I'm not going to, I don't think I'm going to get into chopping, but just by holding this on the handle, you can get some bite. Now this is almost, well, half of it is rotten. So this is not really a challenge for any knife, but the 3-inch blade, I'm guessing, won't do as good. By no means a chopper, but with stuff like this it can get the job done. If you're looking for a walking stick and that's all you want to do, you want to get a sapling where they are plentiful, you can always bend it and cut it. You can do that even with a pocket knife. Now I started testing and using my gloves while I tested for a reason. Because, as I mentioned, the F1 has a thin handle. It will tire out your hand very quickly. This one is a bit thinner, not by much, but you can feel the difference. And because I've showed you my fire, I'm also gonna add a few wood shavings to it. Not because I need to, but just because I'm testing these knives. The funny part is, when I switched from the knv3 to the F1, I felt like it was biting better, and that it was more stable in hand somehow. And now that I switched from the F1 to the knv3, I felt that this was slightly more stable. That is funny. Not much left on this piece of wood, so just go on the other side. I found out that the more tired your hand gets, the more you can feel the small things. For example, it's really easy. This is a curved piece of wood, and I realized it just now as I was cutting and talking. I was slicing a big part of the wood. It was all straight, and I took the F1 and I cut with the straight part of the blade, and then I started cutting with the belly more. So that gave me the impression that I was doing a better job. And then I switched to this one, and because the wood was not, I wasn't going on the flat side of the wood, but more at an angle. I'm guessing that's what it is. You can tell better because you saw that on camera. I was also going again with the blade, and that's why I felt like I was getting a better bite, and it went through easier. The edge angle is basically the same for both knives. So, except for the blade length, they're both doing a good job. I felt that this one was getting a bit more, was a bit more prone to get stuck in wood. It could be the geometry, and it could be the blade length. I did, however, take a lot of steel off the F1. I didn't just modify the edge angle. I didn't want a steep convex. I took it all the way up as much as I could. Considering this is a 3-inch blade, they are very similar performance-wise. I do prefer the belly on this one. It's there's a small portion here that's straight, the rest is a curve. I do prefer that, but even if it's just a hair thicker in the handle, a hair thicker, the profile is a bit different. I prefer the slightly thicker handle of the F1. And of course, I will always choose a 4-inch blade over a 3-inch blade. Let's gather this up and make a fire, because I have to be honest, I am very, very hungry. These wood shavings are a bit wet, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to try to light them up. This is a small container, plastic, blaze orange, and in here I have those windproof matches. I have to admit, I never played with something like this. This is going to be a first for me. If I just could get the striking surface out. Oh, this is difficult. There you go. One stormproof match, one striking surface. I've seen them burn, but well, that was not that impressive, I must admit. Let's try another one. This is fairly wet. That's the match burning, by the way. The wood is very wet, so I don't think that was enough for it. Oh well, it was just a test. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna get this off of here and go back to my old reliable tinder pouches. This is just cotton and Vaseline wrapped in aluminium and duct tape. Smartest thing you can do is just make a small incision in the middle. Oh, you can't see anything. Sorry about that. I'll try to show you. Make a small incision here in the middle. An X, preferably, because X does mark the spot. Yes, I know, I'm funny. Pull this out. I think I used Gorilla Tape for this, and you can see how many layers of tinfoil. And this will be like a candle. It'll hold in the Vaseline. I'm guessing this will burn for a long time. I did do a few tests back when I started making these. And they are quite easy to work with. Plus, you can just pick them up and put them wherever you want. First spark that landed in there got a flame. Oh well. Let me just take this top row off. And prop this up here. And I can just put sticks on top of it. And they will catch fire. Basically, I have about 15 minutes to not take care of it. Do whatever I want to do, except taking care of the fire. And I kind of like that idea, you know. The idea of setting up a fire and just minding your own business. I could also add this on top, and at some point it will flare up and go. So, my split wood fire is going, and I just cleaned up the edges a bit via spit and rub. Not all the wood is gone, you can see, and on the back of this, on the spine, there is even more. More on the F1 than on the knv3. Doesn't really matter. I checked both edges. The main contact area does not shave anymore. The tip does. More for this one than for this one. And I'm talking about more of the tip, not that it shaves more or easier. It either shaves or it doesn't, and both do approximately the same job with the tip. The tip is the one that got the less amount of cutting. I'd also like to talk to you about batoning and edges. Because a lot of people say, well, batoning will dull your edge, and I don't agree with that. Batoning will not dull an edge. Chopping, sometimes cross-grain batoning will dull an edge than batoning wood to split it. The edge will have little contact with the wood, except for the cases where you're using a very fibrous wood and it has to cut the fibers. Mainly, it's going to be the thickness of the knife and sometimes the grind. That's why, in my opinion, it's useless to compare a full flat ground knife with a two bevel ground knife with a convex ground knife. It'll just tell you you have different grinds. But cross grain batoning will also tell you that it might go easier into something or harder and it's more likely to break. Good. Getting that out of the way. I felt that the knv3 was more prone to sticking inside the wood. It may be because of the grind. I have removed a lot of material from the F1. It had a steep grind, and I've shallowed it down. I cannot tell you if the F1 has more chips now than it did before, because I know it gets chips. No matter what you do, you will have microchips in it. But I can check this one to see if I have microchips in it. And for that, I'll create a corner here. I'll also use this piece of wood to remove any dirt from my edge. And then I'll drag it oh so softly on that corner. Alright, I have a corner. Just clean up the edge a bit. And I can't feel it stopping anywhere. Let's do the old fingernail test. And I can't feel anything. I really can't feel anything. So I'm gonna go ahead and say it doesn't have any microchips. I would need a nice piece of paper to be able to tell better. You do a nice straight cut, and then you will see it jumping up a bit if it has any microchips. Now, one more test remains to be done. These blades are not dull, just they don't shave anymore. For that, I have this little strop here in my on-the-go sharpening kit, which I carry with me for testing knives and seeing if I can strop them back to razor sharp. Now I know I can strop the F1 back to razor sharp with no problem. I did that a lot of times, and after I completed my 3-week test, I did strop it for about 2 or 3 minutes on a bigger strop, but it got back to razor sharp and I was very pleased with it. What I wasn't very pleased with were the microchips. Oh, those I don't like. It's not that they bother you when you work with the knife. Unless you're slicing paper, you're not really gonna feel them. Cutting meat or vegetables, wood, stuff like that, they are not going to bother you. Alright, I think I should stop now. And it's, I don't know if I could show you the hairs. It's taking them off. Maybe a bit more attention to the base of the blade. I prefer to use the white compound from Bark River. Some people prefer the green. A lot of people have asked me, so that's why I'm talking about it. I like the white compound from Bark River. It basically does what I want a stropping compound to do. Alright, and after I strop, I will use the back of my strop to remove the stropping compound from the edge. And it will take off the smallest of hairs. I don't know if you can see those on the blade, but even with the base, this wasn't a lot that I did. Off camera, yes, I did cut a few things, but it wasn't a lot. And I'm pretty sure I can get this one back to razor sharp as well. I know because it was the case last time. So. Since then, I have not used this one in the woods. I have to be honest. I mainly made this video because so many people asked me to. Kind of gave up on it. It still remained in the back of my mind. Because at the beginning, my impressions were that, yes, the knv3 is very similar to the F1. And concerning the handle, I agree. Concerning everything else, I do not agree. I cannot say that I like it more than the F1. I have been using the F1 for a long time. Even dragging the knife in this piece of wood with the F1, I could feel the microchips. With this one, I feel no chips, and it shaves. Oh well. And it shaves, dare I say, better than the F1. I can't show you very well. Or can I? There you go. I don't know if you can see that. The camera is just too bright, maybe. There you go. Where there was hair, there's no hair. And it took less stropping. So this is probably going to be a long video, guys, because I don't want to cut anything out. It was a comparison. I said from the beginning I cannot compare two knives that aren't that similar very well. But I can tell you one thing. I like the knv3. I liked it since I saw it. I thought it was a good option to not getting the F1. The F1 I think is a good knife. I like it, or else I wouldn't have got myself a second one. After I gave mine away, I wasn't sorry. I gave it to a friend, and he uses it, but I did miss it a bit. The knv3 I like. The only thing I don't like about it is the fact that it has a 3-inch blade, and I'm not sure about the handle material. It provides you with a lot of grip, but it seems to be much softer and take damage much sooner. This is, however, an older version. I heard that they are using a different material that is just as grippy, just a bit more resistant. I don't know. This is, like I said, an older version. I like it. I like the sheath. I like the whole package. I don't consider this a survival knife, and to be honest, I don't know if I would go with the F1 if I had a choice to just take one knife. I wouldn't, but for hunting, I think they're both great. For bushcrafting, I would always choose a 4-inch blade over a 3-inch blade, you know, for all-around tasks. All right, those are my conclusions. Price, you have to check on that and see for yourself. As for the question, is the knv3 a knockoff of the F1? I would say you can compare them. They will do a similar job, keeping in mind that this is the shorter blade. I don't think it's a knockoff. A lot of people have said that. A lot of people have commented on that for what it was made. A hunting knife, a small hunting knife, I think it does an excellent job. Alright, I don't have a winner or a loser, both cool knives. If you have any questions about either of them, go ahead and ask. If you would like to see something that you didn't see here, just let me know in the comment section. I actually enjoyed this test. I am thinking about maybe cleaning up the edge of the F1 and doing a cardboard cut test. That would be something that would be a bit more controlled than splitting wood and shaving wood out here in the woods. You would know how many cuts you got and when it went from shaving sharp to ripping out hairs to not shaving, and how long, how many strops it would take to get back to razor sharp. But that would be a lot of work, and I like this one as a neck knife, as an all-arounder. I keep it. It has chips in the blade. They don't bother me that much. And this one, I wanted a giveaway. I keep it, and I really enjoy it whenever I work with it. Plus, somehow comforts me the fact that it has a 5mm thick blade. Pretty cool. I hope you enjoyed the video. I know it was a long one. And like I said, if you have any questions, just ask me in the comment section. I'll try to get to them as soon as possible. I'd like to thank you for watching, and as always, I wish you all a great day.